Hey guys, welcome back to Topher Drives in what is episode 3 of a series that I've named Comfort Mode, a series where we go out for a drive, usually during golden hour, talk about the car we're driving, but also sometimes other things as well. But today, it's going to be all about cars, so hopefully you are prepared for that. It's going to be a very Mazda-y episode, as today we're driving the 2022 Mazda3 2.5 Turbo all-wheel drive. And we're going to talk about kind of where Mazda came from, what they've been doing the past 10, 20 years. We're going to talk about Mazdaspeed, and we're also going to talk about how they've totally changed their image for their new line of cars, especially with this newly refreshed Mazda3. So before we get started, let's go ahead and take a look around this particular car. And I'm super excited to show you the outside of it because it's finished in my favorite red that's on the market right now. It's called Soul Red Crystal, and it is just the most beautiful shade of red, I believe, of any red on the market right now. We don't really have any sun hitting it, but when the sun hits it, it is just spectacular and really, really impressive mix or color, whatever you call paint colors. It's really impressive. Actually, you can see it kind of here. It's just such a deep color. Otherwise though, this is the new Mazda 3. It's been around for a couple of years now. Kind of a controversial design, especially in hatchback form, simply because of how thick this C-pillar is. I mean, look at this. It's absolutely massive. I haven't noticed it really hindering my visibility at all, so that's a good thing. Otherwise, this is pretty much top of the line. This is a $36,000 Mazda 3. It's got just about every option on it. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, it's a turbo all-wheel drive. So we've got a 2.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, 250 horsepower, and 310 foot-pounds of torque if you are running 93 octane fuel. Take a look in the back here. Pretty decent amount of trunk space. Dips down slightly, and then under here you actually have a spare wheel and your Bose subwoofer, or amplifier, whatever that is, and a snow scraper since we're in Michigan. It's April, it might snow, you never know. Super lightweight hatch. That sounds tragic. One thing I don't really love about the new Mazda 3 is the lack of legroom in the back. And you can see, look at this funky door design too that goes up into that pillar. But when you get back here, this is adjusted for me. I'm 5'11", and my legs just press into this back seat. And it's really disappointing when cars like the Honda Civic hatchback exist, which has quite literally, I would say, another 6 inches of legroom back here. And the Mazda 3 just does not deliver. And we don't even have vents or anything back here. The actual seat material is nice. It's a pretty soft leather. It's perforated and such. But yeah, I am absolutely pressed into the back seat here. So hopefully whoever's driving doesn't mind that I knee him the whole time like a 3-year-old on an airplane. You can take a look at the front here. And let's actually take a look at that turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. See, Mazda lately has been calling their engines, or they've been saying, what, Skyactiv technology, so you'll see that on the engine cover. Everyone's got their clever names for their engine. Skyactiv G Turbo. Oh yes. It's actually a pretty attractive engine bay. Mazda does a good job with their engine covers and layout and everything. Looks pretty easy to work on. Battery's nice and out in the open. The airbox is out in the open. Sounds pretty smooth. Not too bad. What does Honda call theirs? Earth Dreams. Ford calls it the Eco Boost. We've got to call our turbo engines something environmentally friendly, because then people will think that they save polar bears. Alright guys, what do you say we go for a drive and talk about Mazda? Mazda's a pretty cool brand because, of course, they make the Miata, one of the best driver's cars of all time. So sometimes when they come out with other stuff, we enjoy driving that as well. And they have made a ton of good cars in their history. And we'll talk a little bit about that today while we're driving this newest rendition of the Mazda 3, of their little hatchback. I always struggle picking, well, for one, a day, and then also the time of day to actually shoot these videos, because there's a fine line when you're filming in between it being too bright and too dark. And when it's cloudy out, that's easy, but on days like this, actually the sun is right there behind the cloud. And I like to have a good vibe with these videos. I like to have a good golden hour. Wow, that is angelic. Check that out. That is a beautiful view over there. Anyways, though, what about Mazda? I've actually owned a Mazda. I had a Miata. I had a 96 1.8 liter Miata, and that kind of opened up my eyes to why people love Mazda, love the Miata so much. And Mazda has really changed over the past 10 or so years. They've been trying to adopt this luxury model, and you can see that communicated here with some of the materials used in the interior of this Mazda 3. We've got a really nice leather dash, we've got really nice leather seats, we've got somewhat of a sophisticated, more higher-end powertrain. We've got a slightly larger four-cylinder than is tradition, and all-wheel drive. So already it's kind of sounding like, well, they've grown up a little bit, and I would say that they have. But is that a good thing? I'm not really too sure. This whole infotainment deal, the way that the screen is and the way that you control it with this little dial, honestly reminds me a lot of BMW, and Mazda's actually been doing this for quite some time now. The past, I don't know, 6-7 years they've had their infotainment set up like this, and it works well, honestly. Obviously this isn't a touch screen, you touch it and nothing happens, but sometimes I like when you can just control things easily from a dial down here within hand's reach. Now, I was born in 1998, so when you say Mazda around me, I automatically think, well, Miata, obviously, but then I think of what was called Mazdaspeed, Mazda's performance division that existed, well, for quite a while, but to the public existed from 2003 to about 2013-ish, I think, when it faded out. So really only about 10 years, and pretty obviously, it's very self-explanatory. Mazdaspeed was Mazda's high-performance line of cars, the Mazdaspeed Protege, the Mazdaspeed Miata, the Mazdaspeed 3, and the Mazdaspeed 6. They made 4 different performance variants of just normal cars that they had in their lineup, and they were fabulous. Admittedly, I've never actually driven a Mazdaspeed car, which now that I'm thinking of that, now that I'm saying that out loud, I don't know how credible I'll sound in this video, but trust me, they're very cool cars. In 2003, Mazda decided that they wanted to make the Protege, just their normal compact sedan, they wanted to make it hot. They wanted to enter the hot compact segment and rival cars like the Honda Civic Si and the Golf GTI, and they did just that by slapping a big spoiler, some orange paint, some Racing Heart wheels, Racing Beat suspension, and a big Garrett turbocharger on their Mazda Protege sedan, and it was awesome. It just looked like that very stereotypical Fast and Furious era. Of course, that was around the time when the first Fast and Furious movie came out, and that car was very, very cool. It only made about 170 horsepower, but for the time, that fit right in with the Golf GTI and other cars in that class. So that was Mazdaspeed's first car. I actually saw one of those at a junkyard a couple years ago. It was very depressing, and in fact, seeing a Mazdaspeed Protege at a junkyard was actually kind of what piqued my interest into Mazdaspeed and led me down the rabbit hole of doing more research about them and why they stopped. That car also had a totally unique interior. It had a Sparco shifter and also Sparco pedals. Super cool, sort of like mishmash of aftermarket / OEM parts on that car. Just a super cool thing. And it's total polar opposite of this car, because sure, this car is quick, 250 horsepower, 310 foot-pounds of torque. It is a quick car, but it's also not really the same vibe. It's quick in a different way, right? So you've got hot hatches and hot compacts that kind of have split personalities. You can drive them around daily, get daily use out of them, and they're very usable, they're very economical, and sometimes they're even comfortable. But then on the flip side, you can take it to the track on the weekend, or go out to Woodward Avenue and drag race scat packs at lights, and sometimes maybe win if the scat pack driver messes up their launch. But this car is not that. This is in no way is this any evolution of a Mazdaspeed car. It's not in any way a hot compact. This is more of just a stepping stone to a luxury car, if that makes sense. This is kind of in between like a Honda Civic, and a BMW 2 Series. If that makes sense. I've just made that up in my head just now. Maybe the 2 Series isn't. Maybe more like a 3 Series. It's in between a Civic and a 3 Series. Because the 3 Series is a bit more luxurious than the 2 Series is more of an enthusiast car. But that isn't to say that this car doesn't still drive nice. It is still quite a nice experience. Still plenty of power. Come into the corner here. Really, really nice direct steering feel. It weights up nice in the corners. Throttle response is pretty good too. The only slight disappointment for me with this car is this gearbox. Now this is just a normal 6-speed automatic unit. You can take manual control either down here by slapping the stick, or you can use your paddle shifters up here on the steering wheel. And it reacts decently quick, but what it won't let you do is redline it, and sometimes that can be frustrating. I want to take my car to the limit, and when it doesn't let you, watch, I'm not gonna, it just shifted for me at 6,000 RPM. So not the biggest fan of that. It does the same thing even when you're in sport mode. You do have a little dial here for sport mode. It won't even let me grab second now. Ooh, there it goes. It still shifts for you. So, anyways though, it's just a totally different, hello? Give me drive back, thank you. It's just a totally different vibe, and it's very interesting to see a car company do this sort of thing. I've been alive for everything I've just talked about. I said I was born in 1998. I've been alive for a lot of the time that Mazda has been in America, and I've been able to see them go from this like zoom happy little car company that makes fun little cars that go zoom into really trying to become a full-on luxury manufacturer. I mean, this is only the beginning for Mazda as far as luxury goes, because they're developing a new platform that uses an inline 6, and there's talks about them making a new car that's going to compete with things such as the BMW 5 Series and Mercedes E-Class. So I'm very excited to see that. I think the first rendition of that car we see in America may be in SUV form, which, surprise, surprise, we get another SUV in America. But that'll be very interesting because, of course, luxury does not just mean interior materials. It means your platform, your powertrain. And having an inline 6 and a rear-wheel drive-based platform is going to be very interesting. I'm very, very curious to drive one of those cars. Something's on fire over there. Hopefully that person parked their Chevy Bolt outside and not inside. Pretty good sound from this 4-cylinder turbo. It's pretty quiet. When you put it in sport mode, you get a little bit of imitated engine noise. Not too big of a difference though. I've just been driving this thing around in normal mode and it does just fine. It's so cloudy. I wanted to give you guys a nice golden hour sunset drive tonight. One of these times we'll get it right. It is only April, so one of these nights in like May or June, we'll get a really good sky, and it'll make going out at this time worth it. Let's actually do a little bit of a launch to see how this Mazda 3 gets off the line. We'll go sport mode, but we'll leave it in automatic. Left foot on the brake, right foot hard down. Oof. And there's 60 miles an hour. Motor Trend tested that at just about 6.5 seconds, and that's about what it feels like. It does actually spin the front wheels. This is an all-wheel drive car, but it definitely feels very front-wheel drive bias, and you can especially tell that when you launch it. You get a little bit of wheel spin. So while we've got just a little bit of time left of our drive, let's talk about a couple other cars that Mazda made in their Mazdaspeed days. Now, the second one they did in 2004, just a year after they introduced the Mazdaspeed Protege, was the Miata. They did a Mazdaspeed Miata, and they didn't make it for very long. In fact, they may have only made it for 1 or 2 years. I'm not entirely sure on that. I just know it started in 2004. It was the NB generation of the Miata. And up until just a couple of years ago, it was actually the most powerful Miata ever made, with 178 horsepower. The new Miata beats it by 3 horsepower at 181. So just now in 2022, you're able to get a Miata that makes just 3 more horsepower than one that was made in 2004. But anyways, gloss over that for now. That was actually a turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, so a little bit different. Now, of course, everything is NA. That was the only turbocharged Miata that we ever got, and it was quite cool. I really want to drive one of those cars. Honestly, if someone made me a list of like 10 cars, like write a list of 10 cars, we'll source them, we'll let you drive them, the Mazdaspeed Miata would probably be on there because that just sounds so epic. A turbocharged version of one of the best driver's cars ever made? I would love to have a go in one of those. Similar style to the Mazdaspeed Protege, it had racing heart wheels and a couple other little aftermarket accessories that came from the factory. Different bumpers and different interior, and it was just an overall very good looking car. Those cars now are worth a ton of money, and I kick myself every time I see one because I saw one during the height of COVID when nothing was worth anything. Some poor soul posted their dark gray Mazdaspeed Miata for just $6,500, and it had less than 100,000 miles on it, and I didn't buy it, and that still haunts me to this day. I had the opportunity to buy it, I didn't buy it. I kicked myself over that anyways, but now those are, you know, in the teens for a halfway decent one, so quite unfortunate that I didn't pull the trigger on buying that car. But anyways, that was the second car in the series of Mazdaspeed. The third one was the Mazdaspeed 6. Now the Mazda 6 is just their mid-size sedan. You know, that car was made for quite some time. It evolved from what, the Mazda 626 it was called before it was called just the 6. And they actually just phased that car out this year, I believe. It'll come back though in the platform that I just mentioned, I hope. But they did a Mazdaspeed version of that, and that was all-wheel drive with a 2.3-liter turbocharged engine. That made somewhere in the mid-200s for horsepower. And one of my family friends actually owned a Mazdaspeed 6 growing up, so I had quite a bit of time riding around in the passenger seat of that car, and it was an absolute blast. We'd go out in the snow and we'd do some little drifts and stuff, and that car was super cool. What made that even funnier is that this family friend worked for Ford Motor Company, yet he drove a Mazdaspeed 6, although I think Ford had a small stake in Mazda at that time, so it was slightly excusable. Oh, we gotta shout out the Orange House. Orange House. Oh, and the Orange Rogue is there today. Fantastic. Oh, man. If you can't tell, I drank a coffee today. I'm sorry about the chaotic nature of this video. The sky is quite pretty. Sometimes it's nice uploading things to my personal channel because I can just do whatever I want. Like drive around and look at skies and orange houses and talk about Mazdaspeed like I'm an old man going through a nostalgic journey. Anyways, so that takes care of, what, 3 of the 4 Mazdaspeed cars that were made. So now we're on to the 4th and final car, which is actually the predecessor, kind of, not really, to this car, the Mazdaspeed 3. This car came to life in, I believe, 2007, and then they facelifted it, I think it was just a total new generation, in 2010, and then it faded out in 2013. So we're going on now almost 10 years of no Mazdaspeed. Phasing that car out was the transition into changing their entire brand image, and made enthusiasts all over the world cry themselves to sleep when Mazda said, we're stopping the Mazdaspeed 3, and actually we're stopping Mazdaspeed as a whole. You don't get any more, no more zoom, no more Mazdaspeed. We're growing up, we're moving to a more luxury themed aura for our brand, and then they just made their way up. The interiors slightly changed over the years, and now we're all the way to this. But the Mazdaspeed 3 in some ways was actually the coolest one because it was a hot hatch. It competed against cars such as the Focus ST, believe it or not. I think they overlapped for a year in 2013. Of course, the Golf GTI, and what else did we have in America in 2013 hot hatch? Golf GTI, Focus ST, Mazdaspeed 3. I guess if you want to say the Mini Cooper John Cooper Works, we still have that. I don't believe Honda was making anything quite up to that level, Civic Si. But it was cool to have another hot hatch on the market that we no longer have. This is the closest thing from Mazda. But that car, so the outgoing Speed 3 in 2013, had a 2.3 liter, similar to the one in the Mazdaspeed 6, made about 268 horsepower. So, what, 18 more than this car makes on 93. But it had less torque. It had about 290 foot-pounds of torque. So this one does make more torque. This one is all-wheel drive, but it's still not quite as fast as that old Mazdaspeed 3. and of course, doesn't really feel the same. The only time I've ever been in a Mazdaspeed 3, the only time I can remember, is there's a dealership around this neck of the woods called Sessi that it doesn't exist anymore, actually, I don't think, but they had a location, they had a dealership that sold Lincoln and Mazda. It was very strange, but sometimes you get those weird dealership combos. And my grandpa was in there buying an MKZ, and they had a Mazdaspeed 3 on the lot. I believe it was the last model year. It was either 12 or 13. It was dark gray. And my grandpa, while he was going through the process of buying his MKZ, I was out on the lot just all googly-eyed over this Mazdaspeed 3 because I thought it was cool. I was 15 at the time, 14 or 15. I couldn't drive a car yet. I thought this thing was so cool. I was just standing out staring at it. And the salesman came out. My dad was there with us too, and he's like, well, do you guys want to take it around the block? I mean, by all means. This was back in the days where dealerships would just let you drive anything you want as long as you could walk, talk, look them in the eye, and they didn't think you were going to steal the car and drive it to Mexico. They would let you drive anything, and thankfully they did let my dad take this car out for a drive. Obviously, I sat passenger because I was only 14 or 15 at the time. And that car was fun. It was a fast little rocket. And well, speaking of hot hatches, check this out. A Ford Focus RS. Fantastic. And behind it, a Mini Cooper S. Lovely. Some good sights while we're on the topic of Mazdaspeed. It would have been really cool if some sort of Mazdaspeed car passed us while we were out today on our drive. But anyways, that Speed 3 was really cool. Not even close to the same vibes of this new Mazda, but there you go. That's kind of the very, very vague history of Mazdaspeed and kind of what they did and how Mazda has just totally changed. And it's been very interesting to see them go through this evolution and just totally change their brand image. And I'm excited to see what the future holds. I'm super, super excited for this new inline-6 rear-wheel drive platform. That may bring some enthusiast DNA back to Mazda. And that's, I think, really what they need, because they've stepped it up in quality. This is a very nice quality interior. They've got, I mean, this is plush leather on the dash that's stitched. Look at that. We've got a nice leather steering wheel. It's very soft. We've got soft touch points on our, well, this one's actually pretty soft. This one's not super soft, but got steering assist and radar cruise and all sorts of cool things that make this just a very nice daily driver, especially in Michigan with the all-wheel drive. So if we can get a good enthusiast package car that's going to compete with the Germans, then that'll actually be very good. I'm very, very much looking forward to that. So otherwise, well, let's talk about the channel for a second. If you guys have stuck around this long, you must be a subscriber. Or if not, you're considering subscribing, which you should do. But as far as the channel goes, I'm really trying my best to get videos up on this channel, and now that it's nice out, I will be stepping that up quite a bit, and I really want to focus on my personal cars. Of course, these press cars are very nice. It's very fun to experience new cars all the time, but I have 6 cars of my own that I really would like to document and get onto the channel. I just bought a Mercedes ML55 AMG for $1,000. That'll probably be the next video you guys see, either that or my 360 some odd thousand mile BMW. That could also be the next video that you see. So stay tuned for that. I've got some fun things planned for this channel. Also, if you like listening to my voice, you can subscribe to Daily Motor and the TheTopher YouTube channels, where I post quite a bit more. So I hope you've enjoyed this slight journey through Mazda's history, as I sounded like an old man being nostalgic while driving this new Mazda. But good stuff. I like this new Mazda 3. I don't like the rear seat room. I love the red color. I love the luxurious atmosphere, and it's quite quick as well. So cool stuff. Oh, and it has a Bose audio system, which is pretty decent. I wouldn't call it the best Bose system I've ever heard, but it's up there. It's a pretty good Bose system. Quite bass heavy. I wanted to park over here so you guys could see what this car looks like in golden hour light. Pretty cool. Let's see the lower bumper area right there. It just pops. So it's such a deep color. All right, guys. Well, that'll end it for us today. Comfort Mode episode 3. Next time, maybe we'll talk about something that isn't cars. What do you think about that? Comment down below if you have any ideas of what you want me to talk about. Will, if you're watching, I know I'm gonna talk about like what got me into cars and stuff, and we've got all summer to talk about that. That'll be a long one, probably, but we'll do that, and I don't know, maybe we'll talk about all of the jobs I've had or something. I don't know. It doesn't even have to be about me. We can talk about whatever you guys want. So comment down below if you have any ideas. DM me on Instagram, and yeah, let's have a good summer. Try and make some more videos for you guys, especially with my personal cars. But also, like I said, I'll be hanging out with Chris Amos from TheTopher and Charlie from Daily Motor, so you'll see me on those channels as well. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for watching. That'll wrap it up for us today, and we'll see you hopefully very soon in the next video. Take care.